There was a couple who was desperate to escape the strife consuming their hometown. They decided with their 2 young sons to immigrate to a new city. Not long after, tragedy struck. The father died unexpectedly. The mother, whom I would describe as kind and strong, continued to raise her sons alone. Ultimately, those young boys became young men who married local women. Just 10 years into those marriages, both sons died suddenly from illness. Having lost her entire family, the woman was resolved to go back to her home community. Though she shared a deep bond with her daughters-in-law, she spoke to them plainly and compassionately. She said, "You are young, you have no children. You should stay here and rebuild your lives." One of them reluctantly agreed. The other would not hear of it. Clinging to her mother-in-law, she declared fiercely, "I want to be with you forever. I want to follow you home, live in your community, learn your ways. Ultimately, I even want us to be buried near each other." Recognizing the young woman's resolve, the elder stopped urging her to leave. Together, these 2 women, childless widows, set on a journey home. You may have recognized what I just shared is a synopsis of the first half of the biblical book of Ruth. Naomi is the Israelite mother. Ruth is the Moabite daughter-in-law. Both are headed back to Bethlehem. Ruth became a paradigm of a convert in Judaism, pledging her loyalty to Naomi and her people to the death. Her words are enshrined in our tradition. Verbatim, Ruth says to Naomi, "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." The story of Ruth, with its themes of loss, grief, and loyalty, is one of the great narratives of our Bible. I have thought about this book endlessly since the current war began. The devastation perpetrated on October 7th sent shockwaves through our Jewish hearts worldwide. The emotional anguish and universal concern for the hostages among the Israeli people and the diaspora has been all-consuming. For over a year, we have been enduring a collective trauma made even more acute by levels of anti-Semitism that most of us have never experienced. As a Jew, it has been a year filled with worry and fear, anger and uncertainty. And yet, there has been a ray of extraordinary, unexpected light. I am a rabbi whose chief focus is educating students who are considering joining the Jewish people in some capacity. So you can imagine, as I watched the contagious vitriol against Jews online, on campuses, and elsewhere, I assumed the interest in becoming a Jew right now might instantly, dramatically be affected. For those listening who may be unaware, here at Central Synagogue, we house the Center for Exploring Judaism, a welcoming nexus for anyone wanting to learn. It is the largest conversion program of its kind. For nearly 15 years, we have nurtured this center, welcoming thousands of students and their families to our Jewish community. I was certain that the aftermath of October 7th would be the end of what we had built. I was afraid there would be no new students and that our current students might understandably pause their journeys or leave altogether. As Jewish grief and anti-Semitism crescendoed, who would choose to join us? Who runs toward a house on fire? I was afraid the peak of interest in Judaism had turned into our precipice. I was certain, like many times in Jewish history, conversion would go quiet or cease entirely. Immediately after the attack, we reached out to those converting, offering to reschedule their ceremonies if celebrating felt unnatural amidst so much sorrow. Not a single person took us up on that offer. Their conversions held in front of a traditional Beit Din, 3 clergy, followed by a ritual immersion in the mikveh, the ritual bath. These ceremonies brought a kind of restorative glimmer to the darkness which loomed over our community. As the war and protests escalated, I offered each student an easy exit, free of judgment. I assured them there will always be time to study, when things calm down. Or I'd say, if you are managing too many difficult conversations with friends and family, that's a lot of pressure. Why don't we postpone? My colleagues and I attempted to pave an off-ramp, making it obvious we would understand if they felt now was not the time to choose us. But not a single person altered their plans. Not a single person reconsidered, slowed down, or walked away. In fact, something remarkable happened. More students showed up. The first class after October 7th in November was the largest we had ever seen. And the next class, even larger. Our program has doubled in size since the war began. We have facilitated over 108 conversions to Judaism since October 7th, and we are hearing very passionate, very articulate declarations like this. I want to be on the right side of history. These levels of anti-Semitism make me want to double down on my commitment. I already feel Jewish. Now is the time to make it official. Or, there is no other community I want to be a part of. In their written essays, students wrote statements like this one. It would be impossible for me to recount my journey of exploring Judaism without acknowledging the unique timing and horrific events of October 7th. As we sat watching the news in disbelief for weeks that turned into months, my fiance and I openly discussed the impact these events might have on my own commitment. At that time, I explained, if anything, this horrible and heartbreaking act of terrorism only fortified my conviction to pursue a Jewish identity and raise a Jewish family. Another student wrote, the terrorist attacks on those beautiful Jewish souls pierced our joy and made a painful reality explicitly clear to me. The Jewish people would always face not just the horrors of verbal anti-Semitism, but actual physical danger. If I was going to be the mother of Jewish children, I too must be Jewish. I need to know what it's like to exist in the world as they do. I need to be able to guide them and love them as someone who understands what it means to be a Jewish person in this world right now. I can't read you the 108 statements today, but suffice it to say, they blend together into a beautiful, unequivocal statement of solidarity against all odds. These students are the Ruths of our time, and we are Naomi. Despite our attempts to protect them and shield them, the Ruths are saying to us at our most vulnerable moment, do not urge me to leave you. Where you will go, I will go. Your people shall be my people, your God, my God. I recently read in the foreword about a Universalist Unitarian minister, a very successful one, who after October 7th is reclaiming her patrilineal identity with Judaism and now studying to become a rabbi. It turns out this phenomenon is not unique to our current moment. I was astonished to learn that after the Holocaust, thousands of Germans expressed a desire to convert to Judaism. The interest was so significant that in 1950, a special commission was formed to help Berlin's chief rabbi process all of the requests. In Psalm 121, we ask, "From where will my help come? How do we find the inspiration to keep going in this seemingly endless, metastasizing nightmare?" I share the unexpected outcome we saw in the Center of Exploring Judaism in the hopes that it may be a beacon of goodness for you, as it has been for me. The inspiration I need to get up and be Jewish every day and lead Jewishly every day comes from these modern-day Ruths. What could be more encouraging than the fact that these people are following their hearts, taking stands, risking friendships and family ties, all to stand with us? They've even given us an insight into our biblical ancestor. The first Ruth was astonishingly brave also. She married outside her people, left behind her family solidarity, abandoned her national identity, and renounced her religious affiliation. In the entire biblical epic of Israel, only Abraham made such a radical change, and he had a spouse beside him and a personal call from God. Ruth stood alone, and many of our converts do too. Anyone who steps into Judaism at any time deserves our admiration and our deepest respect. I dream of a time we collectively realize that the vibrancy and diversity of our community is a testament to the courage of those who would join us. Even in the best of times, conversion is a profound commitment. But now, in the middle of a war, amidst rising anti-Semitism, my gratitude knows no bounds. These newcomers are a gift, and they are our teacher too. Specifically now, the Ruths inspire us because they allow us to see ourselves through their eyes. When we despair, it is so easy to lose sight of why we're lucky to be Jewish. Our tradition can feel like a burden, too demanding, too heavy, something we have to hide. Seeing ourselves through the eyes of newcomers can restore our sense of dignity and faith despite this tragic year. We find renewed, fortified in those newly among us who believe in us most strongly and see what is best in us. You are worth it all, they're telling us. Inspiration comes from the Latin, inspiratus, meaning breathe into. And before being embodied in the Latin, this concept of inspiration actually had a spiritual foundation. In Genesis, we read, "And God formed the man of dust of the earth, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being." In rabbinic theology, inspiration is the influence of God. When a biblical character is filled with the Spirit of the Lord, they are inspired, literally filled with the breath of life. All new Jews today are inspiring us, having an unexpected and welcome impact. They are breathing new life into our community, resuscitating us at a time we so desperately need it. For me, they are bolstering my confidence, balancing my perspective, and keeping me focused. For their fellow students, they are encouraging reflection on personal beliefs, practices, and relationships to Judaism. They have flipped the script. They are the positive role models for us, showing fortitude in the face of such horrible adversity. I recall a classroom conversation last fall about whether we should wear our Jewish stars or our kippahs in public. Was it safe? Was there another way to show pride? It was the conversion candidates, not the students born Jewish, that led a very thoughtful discourse on the merits of publicly embracing one's identity. It's a very personal decision, of course, but their passion in that conversation allowed commitment to conquer trepidation. If the last year has validated anything from our community, it is that we are not invincible. Jews, and indeed all humanity, have lived under a mournful shadow. The devastating consequences of war in Israel, the tragic loss of life in Gaza, and the global surge of hatred against the Jews. No, we are not invincible. So how do we find the spark of possibility, the courage to be hopeful, the determination to move ahead? In 2017, I stood on this bima and taught the phrase from our tradition, Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. We take a deep breath, inspirate us, and remember that in times like these, there have always been inflection points like these. Whether personal or global, this is not the first challenge, nor will it be the last. Historically, the Jewish community so often has been in the throes of agony. The pages of our history scream with pain, and we're facing another trial now. Let us remember, what is most trying often becomes the most energizing. If you watch the funeral of Hirsch Goldberg Pollen in Israel, you know that his mother Rachel's eulogy was at once heartbreaking and uplifting. She remains a source of strength for the world. And this is key. Jewish resilience has never been solely about endurance and retaliation. It has been linked to our people's capacity to be continually inspired by our tradition and, yes, by Israel. For me, the people who have picked up Ruth's mantle from thousands of years ago allow me to see what once seemed impossible is actually within our reach. Our community will heal. Our community will grow. The Ruths remind us of who we are. When Ruth and Naomi return to Bethlehem, Ruth is shown kindness by a family member whom she eventually marries. That union is very important because that couple becomes the great-grandparents of King David. And in traditional Judaism, the Messiah will descend from King David and therefore also from Ruth. What a testament to Judaism's high regard for those who join us. Ruth's destiny is tied up in our very messianic hopes for a brighter future. The book of Ruth starts with death but ends in new life. Let us pray then for an end to suffering and war and the beginning of a new year for our people, our newest family, who remind us of the gifts we've been given and the gifts we have to offer. May it be God's will. Shana Tova.